Hi, I'm Amy Shannon from Amy's Band Book Buzz, and today I'm going to be talking about the definitive edition, Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. Um, if you may not have, you may or may not have heard about this book. Um, it is, and it was banned and burned in Germany. The Diary of Anne Frank. Anne Frank was a young girl. She was about 13, and her family had to go hide underground in order to not be captured by the Nazi regime. Um, and though, not to give away the ending, obviously, um, many people in Anne's family died, including Anne. Anne's father was the sole survivor of the family, and he was very close to his daughter, Anne. She thought she could pretty much tell him anything. She was closer with her father than she was with her mother. Um, and she had siblings and friends and relationships, but a lot of her thoughts, her feelings were written in her diary. And it also kind of told how she was growing. Um, so there's some sensitive issues, and some people don't like it because she talks about becoming a woman or having a crush on someone or kissing them. Um, but it's really about the courage of her family, and what they had to endure. Um, and basically, um, she spent the last years of her life hiding, and eventually her family was caught, and she died from typhus in a camp. Um, but the Germans didn't want the story to get out, so they banned a lot, or they burned a lot of piles of this book. Um, but her father just kept pushing on because he thought her story was important enough to share. And I recommend that everyone read this. Some people say that the Holocaust didn't exist. Um, well, I beg to differ. I am a history buff, and um, I read a lot and about World War II, and I find history important to learn because some people don't learn from their mistakes. And though we think that we've made progress, we we really haven't as humans, human beings, mankind, womankind, people. Some have, some haven't. So the back of the book starts with in 1942, as the Nazis occupied Holland, a 13-year-old Jewish girl and her family fled their home in Amsterdam and went into hiding for the next 2 years until their whereabouts were betrayed to the Gestapo. They and another family lived cloistered in a secret upstairs room of an old office building, cut off from the outside world. They faced hunger, boredom, and the constant cruelties of living in confined quarters and the ever present threat of death and discovery. So that's part of what the back says. And I I had read this a while ago. And actually, that was the first time I ever read this book. And I am like, why didn't I ever read this before? But I went through her diary, and I thought I would read an excerpt from that. Um, she calls her diary Kitty. So Monday, May 8th, in 1944, dearest Kitty, have I told you anything about our family? I don't think I have, so let me begin. Father was born in Frankfurt and Maine to very wealthy parents. Michael Frank owned a bank and became a millionaire, and Alice Stearns' family were prominent and well-to-do. Michael didn't start out rich. He was a self-made man. In his youth, Father led the life of a rich man's son. Party every week, balls, banquets, beautiful girls, waltzing, dinners, and a huge house, etc. After Grandpa died, most of the money was lost, and after the Great War and inflation, there was nothing left at all. Up until the war, there were still quite a few rich relatives, so Father was extremely well bred, and he had to laugh yesterday because for the first time in his 55 years, he scraped out the frying pan at the table. Mother's family wasn't as wealthy, but fairly well off, and we've listened, open mouthed, to stories of private balls, dinners, and engagement parties with 250 guests. We're far from rich now, but I've pinned all my hopes on after the war. I can assure you, I'm not so set on a Burgess life as Mother and Margot. I'd like to spend a year in Paris and in London, learning the languages, studying art history. Compared that with Margot, who wants to nurse newborns in Palestine. I still have visions of gorgeous dresses and fascinating people. As I've told you many times before, I want to see the world and do all the exciting things, and a little money wouldn't hurt. This morning, Mia told us about her cousin's engagement party, which she went to on Saturday. The cousin's parents are rich, and the grooms are even richer. Mia made our mouths water, telling us about the food that was served: vegetable soup with meatballs, cheese rolls with sliced meat, hors d'oeuvres made with eggs and roast beef, rolls with cheese and genessois, wine and cigarettes, and you can eat as much as you wanted. Miep drank 10 schnapps and smoked 3 cigarettes. Could this be our temperance advocate? If Miep drank all those, I wonder how many her spouse managed to toss down. Everyone at the party was a little bit tipsy, of course. Then there were 2 officers from the homicide squad who took pictures of the wedding couple. You can see we're never far from Miep's thoughts, since she promptly noted their names and addresses in case anything should happen and we needed contacts with good Dutch people. Our mouths were watering so much. We, who had had nothing but 2 spoonfuls of hot cereal for breakfast, were absolutely famished. We, who got nothing but half-cooked spinach for the vitamins and rotten potatoes day after day. We who filled our empty stomachs with nothing but boiled lettuce, raw lettuce, spinach, and more spinach. Maybe we'll end up being as strong as Popeye, though up to now I've seen no sign of it. If Miep had taken us along to the party, there wouldn't have been any rolls left over for the other guests. If we had been there, we'd snatch up everything in sight, including the furniture. I tell you, we were practically pulling the words right out of her mouth. We never gathered around her as if we were gathered around her as if we'd never in all our lives heard of delicious food or elegant people. And these are the granddaughters of distinguished millionaire. The world is a crazy place. Yours, Anne M. Frank. So, not only were they hiding to save their lives, they were starving, and they ate what they could possibly eat. I highly recommend that anyone who sees this picks up this book, The Diary of Anne Frank. Adult, teenager, anyone should read this book. And it can be heartbreaking when you know the end, but it can also be inspiring because the hope and dreams of a 13-year-old girl, even in her situation, she still had that. She had faith. She wanted to see the world. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to, but that didn't stop her from dreaming. So, this has been Amy Shannon from Amy's Band Book Buzz. Pick up a book and write a review. This has been Amy Shannon. Talk to you soon.